sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
A busy show tonight. My Mark Meets guest is a man who knows the intimate workings of the royal family better than most. Former royal butler to Princes Charles, William and Harry, Grant Harold, is live at 10. So get your questions in now, mark@gbnews.uk. I'll speak to another leader of a national political party tonight. Tam Laird will join me. He's the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party. Can he dent Nicola Sturgeon's majority? Plus, my all-star panel, including financial genius Jasmine Birtles, comedy legend Tommy Sandu. So excited about Tommy on the show. And, of course, titan of broadcasting, a man who has never sat on a fence in his life, John Gaunt. See you after the headlines with the brilliant Simon Pusey.
Thank you, Mark. I am Simon Pusey. These are your news headlines. Boris Johnson says he recognises the terrible toll COVID has had on the UK after the latest figures were released. A further 313 deaths were reported today, which takes the UK's death toll to over 150,000 since the pandemic began. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer tweeted this number was a dark milestone for our country. UK experts say a fourth COVID jab is not yet needed, as booster jabs are 90% effective in people over 65 after 3 months. Dr. Catherine Millington-Sanders told GB News a second booster is not currently necessary.
There is no immediate need to have the fourth booster vaccination, and that will, I'm sure, continue to be under review. The facts continue to be that if you're not vaccinated, severe disease and ITU admissions and death are much more likely. So let's clarify the first important thing is it is crucial that you have your first and second doses if you actually haven't had those, and have your third or booster vaccination dose in the first place.
Court documents show tennis player Novak Djokovic, who is fighting deportation from Australia, tested positive for coronavirus last month. His lawyers claim he was granted a vaccine exemption to enter the country because of the recent infection. Czech tennis player Renata Voráčová, who was also detained at an immigration facility in Melbourne, left Australia earlier today after similar visa issues. At least 22 people, including tourists, have died in freezing temperatures after being stranded in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. Most of the victims died of hypothermia. Around 1,000 vehicles are still stranded after more than 4 feet of snow fell in the area overnight. The government has declared the resort town of Muri, northeast of the capital, a calamity-hit area. More than 50,000 homes are without power on the west coast of the US following flooding. Areas of Washington state experienced several days of heavy rain, causing roads to be washed away and houses submerged. Members of the National Guard have been sent in to help protect properties. Madame Tussauds is making a new waxwork of David Bowie to mark the late singer's 75th birthday. This will be the second model the London tourist attraction has made of the music legend. Previously unseen images have been released which show the first sitting Mr. Bowie did in 1983. The new waxwork is due to be unveiled in March. And the final section of the revolutionary James Webb Space Telescope has been successfully deployed. Real-time animation shows the most complex stage of the process, the final set of mirrors unfolding and latching onto the main mirror surface. The $9 billion telescope, which launched on Christmas Day, was built to give the world a glimpse of the universe as it existed when the first galaxies formed. You are right up to date now. Back to the wonderful Mark Dolan tonight.
It is Saturday, January the 8th. You're watching Mark Dolan tonight, and we have a big evening of Saturday night entertainment lined up for you. In the light of ongoing legal woes and sex scandals for Prince Andrew, my Mark Meets guest is a man who knows the royal family intimately well. Grant Harold, former royal butler to Princes Charles, William and Harry, is live and exclusive at 10. So get your questions in now. mark@gbnews.uk. Speaking of royal princes, Prince Andrew is the topic of my big opinion monologue in 2 minutes' time. You won't want to miss it. Also, is Nicola Sturgeon drunk on power? And is Scotland now effectively a one-party state? I'll put that to a rare voice of opposition in Scotland. Tam Laird, leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party, is with me in this hour. US showbiz queen Kinsey Schofield brings you all of the gossip live from Hollywood in California. And reacting to the big stories of the day are my brilliant panel. The founder of consumer finance website Money Magpie, Jasmine Birtles, broadcasting legend John Gaunt, and journalist, DJ, and soon-to-be award-winning comedian Tommy Sandu. Now, I want to hear from you throughout the show. I'm at mark@gbnews.uk, and you know that the best bit of my show is when I hear from you. We'll also have another Great British Game Show at 10:45, a fun game based around a news story of the day, and I want you to play along at home. And stick around after 11 for another instalment of Headliners, an exclusive and entertaining romp through tomorrow's front pages. Tonight, with the brilliant comedians Andrew Doyle and Josh Howie. So, a big 3 hours to come, big stories, big guests, big opinions. And remember, we don't do boring. Not on my watch. Let's go. It's often said that Prince Andrew is the Queen's favourite son. Although I'd say that statement is aging about as well as Rolf Harris's status as a national treasure. The Telegraph newspaper are reporting that the Queen may have to dip into her personal fortune if Prince Andrew decides to settle out of court with his rape accuser, Virginia Giuffre. Having dealt with the sad loss of her husband of 7 decades, Philip, representing the nation during an unprecedented pandemic, coping with the aftermath of Megxit and tell-all interviews with Oprah Winfrey, this really is the last thing that our magnificent and ageing Queen actually needs. The Queen deserves better from her so-called favourite son, who, let's be honest, has acted like a playboy for all of his adult life, earning the nicknames Air Miles Andy for his love of a holiday, business trip, and Randy Andy for his capacious appetite for the opposite gender. He's always been first in line to the ladies, allegedly. The Queen's youngest son has struggled to find a role for himself in the royal family, or even a proper job, and he's made more headlines for his raucous affairs with the likes of glamour model Koo Stark than for his actual contribution to public life. And then, of course, he made the bonkers decision to marry the toe-sucking socialite Sarah Ferguson, a flame-haired flirt whose love life appears to have been even more checkered than his. When confronted with shocking allegations of rape, which I must stress he fully and strenuously denies, his response seems to have been to sit on his hands and wait for this scandal to go away. The only noticeable intervention he made was that ill-fated decision to appear on Newsnight and be grilled by the BBC's eye-roller-in-chief, Emily Maitlis. It was an excruciating watch in which he claimed no memory of meeting this lady, in spite of a well-publicised photograph in her company, and he even challenged the basic laws of human biology by claiming that he can't sweat, when this young woman said he was a sweaty dancer. Well, he is sweating now. Andrew's legal team are trying to get Virginia Giuffre's allegations discarded by a US court, but they will likely proceed with the case, which is why little Andy Pandy is going to have to go crying back to Mummy Dearest, who may have to dig deep into her purse to make this problem go away. Selling his 17 million quid Swiss ski chalet may help with the bills too. Nice work if you can get it. How pathetic that a senior member of the royal family, 9th in line to the throne, God forbid that ever happens, has lawyers who are seeking to take advantage of a sordid and squalid out-of-court settlement made by the disgraced billionaire paedophile Jeffrey Epstein before his death. Epstein paid this young woman $500,000 to stay quiet, which might just save Andy's bacon. No one likes sweaty bacon. But however this pans out, in the end, Andy is done for. A busted royal flush. He's lost his ambassadorial role for British industry, his military links and his charitable accreditations. Do you want this man's smiling face in your brochure? I don't think so. He may lose his royal titles and see out his years riding horses and cruising around Balmoral in a Range Rover, all at the taxpayer's expense. Imagine being born to such privilege and squandering it so publicly. Now, I'm very pro-monarchy, like so many great things in this country. I think it's an eccentric and odd idea, but one that strangely seems to work. I'd much rather have a king or queen, a globally recognised head of state, that opens doors internationally and facilitates British soft diplomatic power around the world. I'd certainly rather that than an elected president, which would probably be a clapped-out ex-politician or a celebrity. President Blair. Can you imagine? President Branson. Or how about this one? President Lineker. Please, no. I think you get my point. Be careful what you wish for. The Queen is going to have to deal with Prince Andrew, and she's going to have to do more than put him over her knee. He'd probably enjoy that anyway. This guy will always, of course, be a member of his own family, and he protests his innocence, which is fair enough. But his days as a national figure are numbered. Randy Andy is not so handy, and he's got to go. Now, the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, was schooled in some basic science from a top anaesthetist in London this week. Take a look.
What do you think of the new rule to require vaccination of all NHS staff?
I'm not happy about that. So.
You're not happy about it? Tell me.
So I've had COVID at some point.
Yeah.
I've got antibodies.
Yeah.
I've been working on COVID ITU since the beginning. I have not had a vaccination. I do not want to have a vaccination. The vaccine's reducing transmission only for about 8 weeks with Delta. With Omicron, it's probably less. And for that, I would be dismissed if I don't have a vaccine. It's not, the science isn't strong enough.
That's your view.
Now, what troubles me about Javid's reaction later in that encounter is the way that he belittles this highly experienced medic by saying, oh, we just speak to the experts on vaccines, as though this guy is some kind of idiot that he's found off the street. This is the classic kind of gaslighting that we've seen in the course of this pandemic by anyone that challenges the cosy COVID consensus. This is a guy that's dedicated years of his life to the NHS and spent months on end in intensive care wards dealing with COVID patients. And he now faces the sack. One less anaesthetist amid unprecedented NHS staff shortages. Look, I'm pro-vaccine. I think it's fabulous against severe illness and death. And a vaccine is something that most of us wanted to see when the full scale of the pandemic began to emerge. But in my view, it's been slightly oversold. CCTV sex bomb and then Health Secretary Matt Hancock famously said 15 million jabs to freedom. Well, it didn't happen because the vaccine is not stopping transmission and it's not stopping people from getting COVID. Triple-vaxxed Sir Keir Starmer has had COVID so many times, I'm beginning to think the virus is not a Labour supporter. Meanwhile, tennis supremo Novak Djokovic is effectively in jail in Australia for daring not to declare his vaccine status, even though he caught the virus in December and boasts the 5-star immunity that recovery from infection delivers. Any virologist worth their salt will tell you that natural immunity always has been and always will be the ultimate vaccine, Sunetra Gupta to name but one. Which is why the milder Omicron variant, in my view, should be welcomed, not resisted, for those not in vulnerable groups, a view shared by the few medics and scientists who are not afraid to speak out. The South African authorities who unearthed Omicron were incredulous at the time when they saw us rolling out more damaging control measures, given that this new strain is akin to the common cold. The Mail newspaper this week are suggesting it's potentially 100 times less dangerous than Delta. But you know the theme of this pandemic, folks. When the news gets better, the measures get worse. In the context of the milder Omicron variant, why hasn't Plan B been reversed? And why haven't mask mandates in the classroom for kids as young as 11 already been scrapped? Why will they still be wearing face coverings on Monday when the government's own evidence was, quote, inconclusive? Now there's a surprise. Whether you're a medic, a care home worker or a tennis star, it's a fundamental human right to decide what goes into your body. The virus isn't bad enough and the vaccine isn't good enough to justify this tyranny. A fascinating exchange with Nigel Farage from GBNews has played out on Twitter today. Take a look at this. Now, it's a series of tweets about Djokovic. Nigel writes, I'm talking with the Djokovic family, and they are clear that Tennis Australia, in line with Victoria state law, allowed Novak to come to Australia as he had proof of a positive PCR test within the last 6 months. He was then arrested, his phone and wallet taken. Nigel goes on to say when the Australian Home Affairs Minister says Novak Djokovic is free to leave, she's not being straight. Unless he makes an appeal, he will face an automatic 3-year visa ban, so has to stay in prison conditions until the hearing on Monday. And most devastatingly, here's how Nigel finishes. If they can do this to the world's #1 tennis player, just think what they could do to you. How right he is. And Nigel is back at 7 on Monday. Now, high case rates in ultra-vaccinated countries like Israel and closer to home in Gibraltar demonstrate that this virus isn't going away, which is why a vaccine must be a matter of personal choice. Mandating vaccines is sharp practice, needleless, and something only a small prick would ever consider. Look, I am triple jabbed. I'll be honest with you, I've been poked more times than a Playboy bunny. And if you're in a vulnerable group, older, overweight, or have comorbidities, I think you'd be mad not to have it. But in the end, it's up to you. To jab or not to jab, that is the question. The only person that should ever answer that is you. This is GB News. Tackling the big stories of the day is my all-star panel, and by golly, they are stars tonight. Founder of MoneyMagpie.com, the brilliant consumer finance website, Jasmine Birtles. The drinks are on her. Good evening, Jasmine.
Hello.
Also, legendary broadcaster, the man born with the gift of the gab, Mr. John Gaunt, and one of my favourite comedians. In fact, he's a triple threat because he's a broadcaster as well and a radio DJ. It's Tommy Sandu. Ladies and gents, welcome to the show. First of all, can I ask you, Tommy, whether you think that having the vaccine should be a personal choice for your own body.
Absolutely. Everything should be a personal choice. Mark, we're living our life. I'm living my life. Everything I do should be up to me. Of course, we should have a social conscience and we should be aware of what decisions we make and the impacts they have on society and, of course, spreading stuff. But there's just so much information, Mark. This channel, all the channels, all the news, all social media is confusing, it's contradictory, it baffles me. I don't know how you manage to kind of wade your way through it all. But at the moment, I think it should just come down to I've always been an instinct person. I don't know about you, Mark. I go by instinct. I think, right, I've had the 2 jabs. I haven't gone for the 3rd. I didn't do the trilogy. I went with the 2. It's like Matrix. Same with Matrix. Didn't do number 3. Did 1 and 2 and stopped there. I got my fix. And so in that same respect, I think you should go with how you feel and then ride the consequences of that. So absolutely your choice.
And why haven't you gone for that 3rd sequel? I mean, I don't want to intrude on a private matter, Tommy, because, you know, you've got absolutely no accountability here. Your body, your choice. But do you care to tell me what might have motivated that decision so far?
Over the last few months, I've not really worn a mask that much. I've gone about my business pretty much as I would do had there been no COVID scare at all, and I feel fine. I've been out exercising, I've been in supermarkets, I've been doing comedy shows when the venues have been open, and I feel fine. There's been nothing. I've not hidden away from anything, and I feel fine. So
now I can see John Gaunt brimming with opinion, but let me ask you, Jasmine, first of all, your thoughts about that particular encounter between the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, and a consultant anaesthetist who I think he sort of talked to this medic as though he was some kind of ill-informed taxi driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I agreed with everything you said because, you know, there was somebody who's there. He's on the front line. He knows a lot. And, you know, as he says, and as there were Israeli research has found that natural immunity is better than any other type of immunity. So he knows what he's talking about. And it was quite extraordinary that Saeed Javid just basically brushed him off. It's like, oh, yeah, we talked to specialists. And, you know, basically the real scientists are always arguing. You can't say, oh, this is the science. And we've had this for 2 years now. You've got to follow the science. Which science? Which science? We've got to have the humility to discuss it. And what I really don't like, and haven't liked over the last 2 years, is that we haven't been allowed to discuss it. Nobody with an opposing opinion to the narrative, you know, the established narrative, is allowed to speak. They are absolutely thrown off everything. They're thrown off Twitter. They're thrown off all types of social media, Wikipedia. They're completely cancelled. That, I think, is very, very wrong.
Gaunty, over to you, sir.
Is there a question, or do you just want me to answer?
Well, I mean, what do you think?
Just to reply to the nonsense they've both come out with?
Well, yeah, I mean, first of all, what do you make of Tommy's decision as of this moment in time not to have the booster jab?
You said Tommy's a comedian. I think he's a joker. It's OK to get your natural immunity, Tommy, if you survive. So good luck to you. I think you're irresponsible. I know you're a father of children. You should have the 3rd jab. You've had the first 2. Moving on from there. Coming to the science that Jasmine was talking about, it is confusing, and I'm no supporter of Boris Johnson and this government. They've shot themselves in about 5 different feet all the way through it. They've been useless at giving out the right messages. However, the vaccination programme has been a success. It has reduced transmission. It has reduced deaths. That can't be denied. Now, this latest variation, thank God, or thank whoever is your God, looks like it's not going to be that dangerous, which is great news. And it may actually be our way out of it by giving us herd immunity. Yeah. But as for you, Mark, saying that Sajid Javid just dismissed this doctor, an anaesthetist, obviously knows what he's talking about. He's entitled to his opinion, but it's one opinion amongst thousands of other anaesthetists and doctors who aren't agreeing with him. So, and I think as a doctor, the first rule is do no harm. So he should have been careful about saying that in front of the cameras, because people, and they already have on Twitter, not you, Mark, I know, but other people interpret that as if everything else that they're being told is rubbish. And that's what's wrong with this whole debate. We're in our bunkers. I was a Brexiteer. I know you wasn't, right? So you and I could lob bricks at each other, Remainers, Ramonas, whatever we want to call ourselves. And although I thought Brexit was really important, it wasn't a matter of life or death. This could be, not necessarily this variant. So I think we've got to come out of our bunkers and start jaw rather than war. And I don't want to take over all your time, but I've got a lot to say on Nigel Farage if you want me to go on to that.
Well, listen, there's no censorship on this show, so tell me your thoughts about Nigel's encounter with the Djokovic family.
He's a hypocrite. I know Nigel really well. I probably know him better than anybody else on this programme tonight. I was in UKIP, did a lot of work with him. I actually introduced him to social media for my sins. Right?
It's your fault.
Pardon?
You're responsible.
I'm responsible.
And God bless you
I'm
for
responsible for the fact he's got over 1 million people. No, I'm not. But I showed him Twitter when it was first started. Anyway, Nigel Farage wants to protect our borders, believes, like me, we should be able to control who comes into our country and choose them. Like me, believes that we need to get in charge of what's happening in Dover. Just like me. Then he turns around and talks about Mr. Novak's, the tennis player, and suddenly becomes his saviour, his champion. Total hypocrisy. If we want to control our borders and be a sovereign state, Australia have the same right. And you, Mark, you were quoting things like that he's under house arrest or whatever it is. No, he's not. He's free to go whenever he wants. You also, Mark, quoted the thing about he's had a positive test or whatever you said it was.
That's right, yes. Right? We understand that he got COVID in December of last year.
Well, that's a separate thing. There's two things. He's got two stories. One's he's had the test and one is that he's had the COVID. Now, I don't know, just like you don't know. Conveniently, it seems to me, he's now saying he had COVID on December the 16th. Major newspapers have gotten pictures with him at an awards ceremony on the 17th, or the day after, giving out awards to young children. How could he have done that if he had COVID? So I would suggest, and I may be wrong, and I've got no more evidence than you. Well, actually, I have, because I've got the photos in the papers. I would suggest he's maybe telling a fib. But you're taking it as gospel, because it fits your narrative, and it fits Nigel's narrative. So I'm saying again, jaw, not war. Let's take the heat out of the argument and let's all be a bit more grown up about it.
Well, my gospel is that it's your body and your choice. But look, it's all about opinions. I'm delighted to have Gaunty's opinions and also those of Tommy Sandu and Jasmine Birtles. Lots more to come from my amazing panel tonight. And also, don't forget, at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is the official royal butler, a man that was the butler to Charles, William and Harry. We'll talk about the future of the royal family and what it's like being a royal butler. That's at 10. Get your questions in now, Mark at gbnews.uk. And also, has COVID conditioned us into an extremely risk-averse society? Sage have issued advice about what the most dangerous things to do in life actually are. Apparently going to the shops is borderline suicidal. So have we become risk-averse? We'll discuss that in my news agenda at 9:40. But next, in the big question, is Nicola Sturgeon drunk on power? Is Scotland effectively a one-party state? I'll be sitting down with another leader of a national political party tonight. It's the Scottish Libertarian Party leader, Tam Laird. And he's up next. So get those emails in and vote in our Twitter poll. Is Nicola Sturgeon drunk on power? Hop over to @GBNews on Twitter, and I'll speak to you after the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking bright but chilly in the east with further blustery showers across western areas. Zooming into the southwest, and the showers will be focused across parts of Cornwall, Devon and Somerset, with places further east largely dry and a bright start to the day. The brighter skies will also be across southeast England and East Anglia during the morning. There will be a chilly start though, with a touch of grass frost. Into Wales, and there will be a fair few showers around, which may be wintry across the higher ground. A few icy patches are also possible. A few showers may also move into the Midlands during the morning, but more so across northwest England, where there will be quite frequent, with sleet and snow possible over the hills. moving across the Pennines, and apart from the odd shower, it should be dry first thing with the best of the brightness towards the North Sea coast. A cold start though with a patchy frost. Into Scotland, and we could see some icy patches first thing, with showers affecting many southern and western parts. It will be drier further east, with some sunshine, especially for Aberdeenshire. Some showers will also move across Northern Ireland during the morning, where they will be accompanied by a blustery westerly wind. The driest weather will be towards the southeast of the country. As we head towards lunchtime, the best of the dry and bright weather will be in the southeast, with showers elsewhere.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
A big reaction to my big opinion monologue, which Carl is crafting at the moment into a Twitter clip. It will be up shortly at GB News. Keep your eyes peeled on that one. But let's have a look at what Andy has said. Hi, Mark. If getting the vaccine rids the world of COVID, I could understand why people would want to get the jab. But the jab does not stop you from getting COVID. As for people ending up in hospital if they get COVID, that's complete nonsense. We have 23 family members who have all had COVID and not one of us went anywhere near a hospital. Your guest, John Gaunt, is a danger to the people who are on the fence. Well, listen, we love Gaunty and we love his big opinions. That's what this show is all about, is a diversity of views. I love it when you email in to say you agree, and many kind words about both monologues, which I really appreciate, but plenty of people disagree as well. John's definitely ruffled feathers. Gaunt is talking out of his backside, says Brian, especially regarding Nigel Farage and protecting borders. Djokovic was entering Australia legally at the time to play tennis and then leave, not seek asylum or stay there permanently. If anyone is trying to fit his own narrative, it's Gaunty. Brian, thank you so much for that. Well, John is back alongside Tommy and Jasmine later in the show. Don't forget, by the way, it's episode 2 of a brand new series of Headliners. That's right, a comic romp through tomorrow's front pages after 11 with Andrew Doyle of This Parish and the brilliant comedian Josh Howie. That's at 11. But it's time now for the big question. And tonight we're going to talk about Scotland, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. I spent 4 joyous years of my life living in Edinburgh. But with Nicola Sturgeon seemingly enjoying an iron grip on power, will the SNP stay in office for the foreseeable. Connor, I think you've got a clip of Nicola Sturgeon in autocratic form. Could you mind firing that one up for me?
Did you cut the requirement for self-isolation?
Yeah, that would really help, because that would spread infection even further, and that would be not doing any favours to businesses. I don't know if you've listened to a single word I said.
What a dismissive response. Well, there you go. Will the SNP be in office for the foreseeable future? Is Nicola Sturgeon almost a dictator? Well, with Labour supporting long-term decline in Scotland and support for the Tories tanking, is Scotland now effectively a one-party state? And by the way, of course, it's a democracy. But what I mean is, will the stubborn popularity of the SNP ever end? And is Nicola Sturgeon drunk on power? Well, to answer that, let's speak to another leader of a national political party. And tonight, it's a rare voice of opposition north of the border, the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party, Tam Laird. Hi, Tam.
Hi there. Thanks very much for having me on.
Tam, it's great to have you on the show. How long, roughly, has the Scottish Libertarian Party been going?
The party first sort of got together in about 2012, but we didn't really register as a party until with the EC until 2016. So we've been pretty much registered and politically active since 2016.
And for what reason did you found this party, Tam? What are its fundamental principles?
Fundamental principles are free speech, free markets, and a free people. That's the key to a prosperous society. In Scotland, it seemed to me, at least, before I got involved with the Libertarians, I hadn't been politically active for around 15 years. I'd been politically agnostic. It seemed to me that whoever I voted for, I ended up with the government, and the government just put in place the same policies regardless of what hue, what colour they seemed to be. So we wanted to provide something different. We wanted to provide a party that actually cared about individual rights, individual liberties and individual responsibilities, as opposed to looking at people as just being pawns of government. Like most parties look at people as if, you're there to serve the state. We don't follow that principle. We think the state is there. If it exists at all, it's there to serve the individual.
And I understand, Tam, that you were a supporter of the SNP back in the day, or certainly pro a national independent Scotland.
Well, I'm pro-independence, not necessarily just Scottish independence. I'm pro-independence all the way down to the individual. But yeah, for my sins, I was a member of the Scottish National Party a long time ago, over 20 years ago now, maybe more, because I believed in independence. But the SNP have certainly not believed in independence, not since 1988, at least. That might surprise a lot of your viewers to know that. But they oppose independence. They opposed the UK leaving the EU, and they wish to hurry up and rejoin the EU as soon as they possibly can, if they get the chance. And that doesn't sound like any kind of independence to me. That sounds like the worst kind of dependence. If that's what you're into, that's fine. You can make a case for it, but please don't call it independence, because it's the opposite.
So your argument is that the SNP want to leave one political union, the UK, and join another, of course, run from a greater distance over in Brussels, the EU.
Yeah, apparently being one voice in 27 is an improvement in being one voice in 4, if you can follow that logic.
Now, Tam, tell me about this issue of freedom of speech, because, last time I checked, Scotland was a vibrant, open democracy and a thriving market economy on the watch of Nicola Sturgeon. Scotland is a successful, modern democracy. What's the problem?
No, the centralisation of power in Scotland, and this is not unique to Scotland, but it's very pronounced here. The centralisation in power of Scotland has become frightening. The SNP were already had a centralised grip on power in Scotland before this COVID situation. This has simply added grist to their mill, and now they've steadily, tightened their grip on power. There's very little democracy out in the sort of council areas. It's all centralised. The Scottish central government, Holyrood, calls the shots, and basically it's dominated by the SNP and its Parks and Gardens Department, the Green Party.
And what about free speech in Scotland? You've got strong views on that one.
Yeah, well, free speech in Scotland has been under assault. We now have the Hate Crime and Public Order bill enacted in Scotland, which means that you can be technically arrested for what you say within the confines of your own home. Someone's at a dinner party at your house and they overhear you saying something that offends them or they think might offend somebody else, then they can report you to the police, and the police now have duty to investigate that as a hate crime. You can be investigated for what literature that you have in your own home. If you have a copy of Mein Kampf or you have a copy of the Anarchist's Cookbook, you could be
Jeffrey Archer, maybe?
Well, maybe that's the limits of my free speech.
J.K. Rowling.
I don't know. Yeah, well, definitely, I did. J.K. Rowling's definitely on the dirt list at the moment. So yeah, you could. We're laughing, but it's absolutely possible that you could be dobbed into the police for having a copy of Harry Potter in your house.
Deeply concerning. And so, Tam, what are your ambitions politically, and what kind of Scotland would you like to see?
I would like to see a Scotland that is completely free, where individuals can speak their mind, can go about their business without interference, needless interference from government, which is pretty much any interference from government is usually needless interference. I would like to see businesses thrive, a free and open economy, zero tariffs. When we talk about having free ports in Scotland, I would like to see Scotland, the entirety of Scotland, be a free port with no tariffs, so that people can do business easily with whomsoever they choose, as long as you're not hurting anybody or interfering with their right to do the same. So that's the kind of Scotland I would like to see. Individual rights and liberties are more important to us as a party than what the SNP would like to dress up as independence. So independence right down to the individual.
And Tam, you, I think, are a rare beast. Forgive me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but you seem to be somebody that's pro-Scottish independence, but politically to the right. Is that a fair characterisation?
Well, if you think of libertarianism as being a sort of a right-wing concept, we're certainly to the right of the Conservatives on a lot of things. Certainly economically, we're way to the right of anything that the Conservatives are into. But when it comes to civil liberties, we could arguably be way to the left of the socialists on that. When it comes to anti-war, we're certainly way to the left of the socialists. We're already against the next war. So yeah, in some areas, certainly economically would be regarded as right. But yeah, I have no time whatsoever for socialism or anything remotely resembling it. I think it's harmful for people.
Don't think you've got too much time for Mrs. Sturgeon's COVID measures. Would you like to have seen the lighter touch that we've seen in England from the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, of course, Freedom Day on the 31st of July of last year?
Well, I don't have a lot of time for the way Boris Johnson's handled it either. I think, I'm giving Nicola Sturgeon a shellacking quite rightly here, but Boris ain't no libertarian either. However, certainly his response to the Omicron situation has been preferable, way preferable to the way that Nicola Sturgeon or her counterpart in Wales, Mark Drakeford, has handled the situation. Well, they haven't handled it at all. They've mishandled it. And there's no justification, in my view, at least, and in my party's view, for the way that they've mishandled this situation. I spent my Hogmanay in London and enjoyed it and enjoyed the freedom. Yeah,
you were very welcome. Exactly. I'm glad you fought your hard-earned.
Well done to the Crown and Cushion in Lambeth for a good
Crown and Cushion. There you go.
Hogmanay.
Well, that sounds like an excellent watering hole. Tam, look, the clock's against us. I don't want this to be a Nicola Sturgeon bashing session.
Sure.
The bottom. Speak for yourself. But just briefly, I mean, this is a politician that is very, very popular, and the SNP always achieve a barnstorming majority at every election. So in the end, most Scottish voters back this woman.
Well, no, actually, only if you look at the figures, 23.62% of the Scottish electorate voted for, or the Scottish people voted for Nicola Sturgeon, which under the D'Hondt system, under this system that very few of us actually understand in Scotland for electing Scottish MSPs, that's returned them a 49.61% sort of representative power in the Scottish Parliament. So it's way out of disproportion to actually, their actual support. Unfortunately, we don't have much in the way of an opposition either. The Conservatives are feeble. Scottish Labour no longer really exists because the SNP are de facto the Scottish Labour Party now. So it's not quite as simple as everybody, likes the SNP, but she is staggeringly popular with her own followers and almost has a cult-like following. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem as if it's going to end anytime soon. The only way she's going to leave office is if she's either burnt out, dragged out, or voted out. Take your pick. She ain't going to resign anytime soon. So you can keep that hashtag up if you like. It's tedious and it's not going to work, not anytime soon. Unfortunately, I would like to tell you differently.
Tam Laird, a brilliant joy to have you on the programme. Let's speak again soon. Tam Laird is the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party and former SNP MSP. If you are in agreement or disagreement with what Tam has had to say, then drop me an email now, mark@gbnews.uk. I'm particularly interested to hear if you are an SNP supporter, a Nicola Sturgeon supporter, and perhaps you can speak up for your leader, who is widely considered to be one of the most effective politicians in the world. But what do you think? Let me know your thoughts. In terms of that Twitter poll, I asked whether Nicola Sturgeon is drunk on power. 97% of you say she is, and 3% of you say she's not. Perhaps that 3% are a bit drunk themselves. Well, coming up in Mark Meets at 10, I'll be chatting with a former personal royal butler to Princes Charles, William and Harry. That's right, I'll be speaking to Grant Harold. We'll talk about the future of that great institution of the monarchy. So if you've got questions, then send them to mark@gbnews.uk. But next, has COVID conditioned us into being a risk-averse society? My panel will be debating that, plus much more. Don't forget, headliners at 11. A busy 2 and a bit hours to go. I'll see you shortly.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Now back with me and throughout the show is my all-star panel, founder of MoneyMagpie.com, which is a brilliant financial resource for consumers, Jasmine Birtles, legendary broadcaster and writer John Gaunt, and, by the way, health guru as well, simpleasfat.com, brilliant website, take a look, and the hilarious comedian and radio DJ Tommy Sandu. Now, a Virus Watch study by Sage has found that going to the shops puts you at the greatest risk of catching COVID. That's right, going to the shops is the riskiest thing that you can do in this pandemic. Sage scientists observed the day-to-day activities of over 10,000 people and concluded that shopping increases risk of infection by 2.2%. Playing sport outdoors came second, whilst it turns out going to the pub and taking public transport carry the same amount of risk. Well, there's a choice. Sit on a train or go to the boozer. I know which one I'd go for. But another example, of course, isn't it, of how the hospitality industry may have suffered disproportionately. Now, we all know when it comes to Sage scientists, they love nothing more than creating a state of fear. But we're now being told that you're taking a risk just going to Tesco's. So what do we think? Has COVID conditioned us into becoming a risk-averse society? Now, Gaunty, I know that you've sort of spoken out a lot about COVID, and we ought to take it seriously. It is a potentially very, very nasty virus to a fair chunk of the population. But are you not worried about the legacy that it will leave, which is a kind of essentially a population of terrified Brits?
No, because we're British, aren't we? And we're going to bounce back and everything's going to be okay.
Are we?
And things are getting better already. You're painting a narrative that I just don't recognise. Obviously,
your narrative. I mean, you sound like you've been on the internet for 2 years.
Well, you're the one who's always talking about the government's got a narrative and there's some great super plan to oppress the proletariat. I find it really amusing.
I think that super plan to oppress the proletariat has happened, my friend.
No,
we've had 2 years of lockdowns, and COVID measures. We've wrecked the economy.
We had to have the lockdown, the first lockdown. That was absolutely necessary. We needed the vaccination programme. You yourself say you're triple jabbed, so at least you're not a hypocrite. You admit that you've had it.
I might get you to do the next one.
The next what?
The next jab.
I'm not putting a prick in you. Let me tell you. Boom, boom.
See, I set him up.
Yeah.
He puts him in the back of the net.
But no, I just think, Mark, now we've all got to calm down, like I said earlier, including yourself.
But what about
and
those
including the
numpties?
other fanatics
Gaunty. What
on
about
this
those
radio TV station?
What about those? Oh, by the way, thank you for saying that, because we
Radio
are on the
and
radio
TV,
as well. Of course, GB News is on television and on DAB+. If you're listening, it's great to have you for company, and we'll all agree I've got the perfect face for radio. Now, Gaunty, what about those numpties that dive bomb out of the way when you walk past them in the street, who still think that this is like the bubonic plague?
Well, there are people like that, and there are people of an older generation who are like that, and they have been scared, you're right. But we now need to work on the alternative, if you want to call it propaganda, and bring them back into the fold, because we're a great country. You know what? And, so often when people won't have the injection, like Tommy here, I wonder what that'd have been like in the Second World War. It'd have been, no, you're not taking my iron gates to make them into tanks. I don't agree with this. It's bodily autonomy. It's guarded defence autonomy.
But your language won't have the vaccine. I mean, that's authoritarian language,
Well,
isn't
yeah,
it?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And
one of your heroes, and many people on the station, including Mr. Wootton, is Margaret Thatcher. Well, Margaret Thatcher was a libertarian, but she wasn't a libertarian like you lot, who'd say, just anything goes. She was also an authoritarian, because you do need some authority. You do need some order. That's where society collapses.
Well, I tell you, that's a great what-if conversation. How would Margaret Thatcher have handled the pandemic? And it's an interesting one to reflect on.
She'd have had jabs in you and jobs in you.
I tell you what.
Tommy, you wouldn't have had
a few syringes in her handbag, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. But what do you think about this, Tommy? I mean, have you seen it in your personal life? Or are there people who are terrified to step outside their front door?
Perfect. It's like you knew. Today, I was in the supermarket and I didn't have a mask on, right? Because generally, I just come from a workout and ring the wife, grab some bread on the way home. I go in and there was a woman who stopped and reversed her trolley up away from me.
Right. By the way, do people not often do that to you? Even
No,
when there isn't a
it's
pandemic?
more in awe. Is it really him? No, she was...
Because you might be like me, that people sort of just like keep their distance from me at the best of times. So basically she just thought, OK, there's a guy without a mask, he's going to kill me.
And she said it. She said it, and quite loudly for others to hear.
She's not in the wrong, you're in the wrong. You're meant to wear a mask.
I thought there was no wrong here, John. I thought
There is a wrong.
No, there's not a wrong.
Perhaps you're
It's outrageous, his opinion. No, it's outrageous what he said. Oh, I'd had a workout, I went in the supermarket and some woman was scared of me.
Yeah,
she had every right to be, Tom.
This is what I mean. Listen to how scared John is.
I'm not scared.
You what? You're saying like this is the great British attitude and all the British. Where's that British spirit now? We're going to be fine. We're going to get through this. And actually, we all know there's lots of mixed opinions about masks, how effective they are, the effects they have, and how useful they can be or aren't. And this woman backed up, and she said quite loudly, she said, I'll just wait here because you haven't got a mask on.
Good on her.
Good on her.
I applaud her.
So I took my time looking for the bread with the long date.
I wonder if this lady's vaccinated.
Yeah.
And if she's vaccinated and still fears you, then she's probably an anti-vaxxer that's had the vaccine. I mean, Jasmine, where do you go with this anecdote?
Oh, I really don't know. Because I was thinking, when you talked about risk, you see, from my perspective, I'm always talking about risk and how we need to take risk in order to make money. And I think that, there's a similarity here. If we, people who say, I don't want to take risks with my money, I don't want to put money into the stock market, for example, over time, these supposedly risky investments make you money. Whereas if you go for low risk or no risk at the moment, you will lose money if you put it into savings accounts.
Yeah,
so
banks,
it is. Now, in a similar situation here, if we don't take risks, if you like, if we just say, I'm just going to stay at home and batten down all the hatches, you will not have a life. You will not have a life. And we do need to get to the point where we go, OK, I will go. You need a balance. We have to do things sensibly. There are helmets to wear for certain things. If you're going to be on a bicycle, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to have a safety net. All these sort of things. But otherwise, we do need to take risks.
But
we need to live.
But Jasmine, that's more than one person because we live in a thing called society. Where's Tommy is being irresponsible today? He's a very nice man. And I just turned down. He offered me some of his fruit salad. He said, have some of that. He got it from Mark's. And I said, no, thank you. You've got the plague. Or you might have the plague.
It's good to know which supermarket he was in, by the way. Marks and Spencer.
Well, I thought he was an Aldi man, but there we go.
Well, I disagree.
But he goes into the supermarket. The lady has a right, and the way he told the story, for him to be responsible and put a mask on. That is the rule at the moment.
There's nothing responsible about it. I mean, you know that the masks do nothing. They do literally. It's like
the surgical masks and also the cloth mask are not even accepted in Austria and Germany. They're not accepted.
They're hopeless.
In Austria and
completely
Germany,
hopeless.
They force the jab on you, so we don't want to go there, do we?
No, we don't.
The truth is, at the moment, the guidance is to wear a mask in those places.
Guidance.
But hold on. Tommy decided not to. So there's two sides to the argument. The lady has a democratic right to be unhappy and not want to get too close to him, just as, he wants to not wear the mask. You can't have it all your way. You just can't.
Well, I think we can all agree that we do eventually have to snap out of this because there are big economic and societal consequences if we don't. And on that, we can certainly all agree. Well, my brilliant panel will return in the next hour to tackle some more big stories of the day. But don't forget, at 10 o'clock, my Mark Meets guest is the former royal butler to Charles, Harry and William. It's Grant Harold. So get your questions in now, Mark at gbnews.uk. I'll get to your emails as well. And don't forget, headliners at 11. See you shortly.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking bright but chilly in the east with further blustery showers across western areas. Zooming into the southwest, and the showers will be focused across parts of Cornwall, Devon and Somerset, with places further east largely dry and a bright start to the day. The brighter skies will also be across southeast England and East Anglia during the morning. There will be a chilly start though, with a touch of grass frost. Into Wales, and there will be a fair few showers around, which may be wintry across the higher ground. A few icy patches are also possible. A few showers may also move into the Midlands during the morning, but more so across northwest England, where there will be quite frequent, with sleet and snow possible over the hills. Moving across the Pennines, and apart from the odd shower, it should be dry first thing, with the best of the brightness towards the North Sea coast. A cold start though, with a patchy frost. Into Scotland, and we could see some icy patches first thing, with showers affecting many southern and western parts. It will be drier further east, with some sunshine, especially for Aberdeenshire. Some showers will also move across Northern Ireland during the morning, where they will be accompanied by a blustery westerly wind. The driest weather will be towards the southeast of the country. As we head towards lunchtime, the best of the dry and bright weather will be in the southeast, with showers elsewhere.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Brilliant email from Mark in response to our debate around whether COVID has turned us into a nation of fearmongers. And Mark says, hi Mark, I've worked in a supermarket throughout the pandemic. You can't do my job if you're paranoid about COVID. And I've observed a lot of paranoia among customers. Well, Mark, thanks for your email. And also thanks for your amazing service in the course of this pandemic. We've talked about NHS frontline workers, care home workers as well, but there have been so many heroes over the last 2 years, and supermarket workers in the front line have absolutely been part of that. Now, you're watching Mark Dolan tonight. We've got a jam-packed last hour of the show before I take the host's seat for headliners at 11. In the light of ongoing legal woes and sex scandals for Prince Andrew, my Mark Meets guest is a man who knows the royal family intimately well. Grant Harold, former royal butler to Princes Charles, William and Harry, is live in 2 minutes. US showbiz queen Kinsey Schofield brings you all the latest gossip from Hollywood. And reacting to the big stories of the day, my brilliant panel, Jasmine Birtles, John Gaunt and Tommy Sandu. But first, let's get to the news headlines. Here's Simon.
Thanks, Mark. I'm Simon Pusey. These are your news headlines. Boris Johnson says he recognises the terrible toll COVID has had on the UK after the latest figures were released. A further 313 deaths have been reported today, which takes the UK's death toll to over 150,000 since the pandemic began. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer tweeted this number was a dark milestone for our country. UK experts say a fourth COVID jab is not yet needed as boosters are 90% effective in people over 65 after 3 months. Dr. Catherine Mollington-Sanders told GB News a second booster is not currently necessary.
There is no immediate need to have the fourth booster vaccination, and that will, I'm sure, continue to be under review. The facts continue to be that if you're not vaccinated, severe disease and ITU admissions and death are much more likely. So let's clarify the first important thing is it is crucial that you have your first and second doses if you actually haven't had those, and have your third or booster vaccination dose in the first place.
Court documents show tennis player Novak Djokovic, who is fighting deportation from Australia, tested positive for coronavirus last month. His lawyers claim he was granted a vaccine exemption to enter the country because of the recent infection. Czech tennis player Renata Voráčová, who was also detained at an immigration facility in Melbourne, left Australia earlier today after similar visa issues. 2 teenage boys have been charged with manslaughter and arson after the death of an 88-year-old woman. Josephine Smith was pronounced dead at the scene following a fire at an address in Romford in Essex. 18-year-old Kai Cooper from Surrey and a 15-year-old boy from Essex have been remanded in custody and will appear at the Old Bailey on Tuesday. At least 22 people, including tourists, have died in freezing temperatures after being stranded in their vehicles in northern Pakistan. Most of the victims died of hypothermia. Around 1,000 vehicles are still stranded after more than 4 feet of snow fell in the area overnight. The government has declared the resort town of Murree, northeast of the capital, a calamity-hit area. More than 50,000 homes are without power on the west coast of the US following flooding. Areas of Washington state experienced several days of heavy rainfall, causing roads to be washed away and houses submerged. Members of the National Guard have been sent in to help protect properties. And the final section of the revolutionary James Webb Space Telescope has been successfully deployed. Real-time animation shows the most complex stage of the process, the final set of mirrors unfolding and latching onto the main mirror surface. The $9 billion telescope, which launched on Christmas Day, was built to give the world a glimpse of the universe as it existed when the first galaxies formed. You are right up to date. Now back to 6'4" Mark Dolan.
Thank you, Simon. If my mum was here, she would correct you. 6'4.5", 6'5" on a good day with the wind behind me. I tell you what, though, I'd love Simon Pusey's guns. Now, he will, of course, be bringing us up to date on everything that's happening in the world in the next hour. I hope you're enjoying our bulletins from the fantastic Simon and the rest of the team in our bulletins set of journalists. We also, of course, have Eamon Holmes and Isabel Webster on breakfast. I think the show's incredible. I hope you've had a chance to watch it. If not, do tune in from 6 a.m. on Monday. And don't forget that you can watch us on your smartphone via the app. You can see us on regular TV and you can hear us on DAB+. So if you're listening to this show right now on the radio, then it's a privilege and a joy to have you. That's right. I've gone back to my old job of being on the radio, but it's a double threat because we're on TV too. So look, lots to get through in the next 2 hours. Can I just bring you up to date on some of our emails, because lots to be said from yourselves. This is from Derek, who says, "Dear Mark, today I learned that my grandchildren are being taught in cold classrooms where they're wearing woolies under their school shirts to comply with school uniform regulations. Health and safety regulations, which ensured that a workplace classroom had a comfortable working temperature, has been vetoed by COVID emergency regulations. MPs nodded through the last renewal of COVID emergency regs the last time it was discussed, so it's fine for children to be ill from some other problem as long as it's not COVID. My MP gets a hard time from me and from now on is going to have his emailer make a misery about the education situation." Derek, a very good email, and I couldn't agree more. How about this? This is from Faynet, who says, Dear Mark, I've had no problems not wearing a face covering in my local supermarket. The vast majority of people are wearing face coverings themselves, but don't seem bothered by my lack of covering. Of course, most are not wearing them correctly. I do have a full beard, so I've wondered if they just don't realise I'm not wearing one. Well, listen, I'm sure it's a very fine beard, Faynet. Thank you very much for that one. Dear Mark, Mrs. Thatcher would have handled the Wuhan virus as the Hong Kong flu was handled in 1968. Her Majesty's government had nothing to do with it. It was a private matter. Either we got it or we didn't. We died or we didn't. It took all ages and levels of health too, not just old and frail people. And it wasn't on the news. People mentioned it, but not much. There you go. That's the view of Elizabeth. And that's the general conversation tonight. Have we become a risk-averse society as a result of COVID? Wanda says, Mark, your panellist Jasmine Birtles is absolutely right. We all need to accept risk in our lives. Otherwise, society becomes emasculated and the people enslaved by their own fears. Pat says, as ex-LBC presenter Majid Nawaz says, you need a higher threshold of evidence before you can justify mandating things. Finally, let's have this one regarding Nicola Sturgeon. Is Sturgeon drunk on power? Leslie says, hi, Mark. Great to hear your affection for Edinburgh. You'll find it as bohemian as ever, as long as your bohemian tastes lean towards Kafka. Scotland is now a dark, divided dystopia under Sturgeon and her cult, who have fed on the West Coast sectarian element in Scotland to divide the unionist vote and cause untold division and damage. Leslie goes on to say, I enjoy hearing the views of the leader of the Scottish Libertarian Party on your show. However, my thoughts are that we have never needed a UK-wide national alternative more than now. Great show as ever. And how about this one? Because I do enjoy a bit of friction on this show. And Ray has said, hi, Mark. Now, I agree with you about being up to individuals what they put in their bodies. But if these same persons who are unvaccinated catch COVID and are hospitalised, well then, if they do recover, they should be presented with a bill for all of the treatment that they receive. After all, it's their own fault that they're in there. Ray, thanks for your view. Always welcome. Keep them coming, Mark, at gbnews.uk. It's time now for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of politics, showbiz, sport, business and beyond. And tonight, fascination with our royal family remains undimmed. And in spite of Prince Andrew's current travails, my big opinion monologue about Prince Andrew is currently on our Twitter feed at GBNews. Take a look if you missed it, along with my comments about Sajid Javid and the jab. But there remains a question mark about what kind of king Prince Charles would make. The sad loss of Prince Philip, of course, last year, and the aftermath of the Sussex's departure to the States. These are all issues for the royal family, but still, the monarchy remains stubbornly popular. So what is the long-term future for this great institution? Can it survive? Can it thrive? Joining me now is a man who knows the royal family intimately well, the former personal butler to Prince Charles, William and Harry, and now an internationally renowned etiquette expert and royal commentator, Grant Harrold. Hi, Grant.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Wonderful to have you on the show. Grant, how did you actually enter this world of butlering?
Matt, as always, thank you for having me on your show. People ask me this question all the time. What made me decide I want to be a butler? And there was two things. One was the movie Remains of the Day with the wonderful Anthony Hopkins. I quite liked this idea of looking after people in that role. And the other part was the documentary about the Queen, which was back, I think, in 1992. And there was a couple of snippets where you saw the butlers or the footmen. And I thought, if I become a butler, I have to work for the Queen or her family. That was kind of what made my mind up at a young age.
Well, let's do a bit of butlering FAQs. You are, of course, the elite within that particular skill set. What are the hours like for a royal butler?
It's funny. It depends on who you work for. It depends on the house you're in. mean, for example, when I first started off in the role as a butler, as a trainee butler, the hours could be long. I remember as a youngster, late teenager, and I kind of start at 7 in the morning and finish at maybe 11, 12 o'clock at night. But then when I went on to work for the royal family, it depended on what we were doing. If I was travelling with them, if we were at one of the other homes in the country and there was dinner parties and events going on, then obviously it'd be late nights, early starts. But if it was just the family and say another butler was on duty, then I could even have days off or late starts or early finishes. So the hours are very varied. But I say to the butlers that I train today that if you go into the profession, you need to kind of be willing to kind of give up a majority of your time, because the reality is you can work long hours, but then again, you can also get some good time off as well.
And of course, your accommodation will be on site within your workplace. You wouldn't be going back to your flat or your house, I guess.
No, this is what I loved about the job. It's not many people can say that they've stayed in castles, palaces, stately homes, and that's something I enjoyed. I've got wonderful memories. I even stayed at Castle May, the Queen Mother's home way up at the very top of Scotland. And I remember my bedroom was just above where the Prince of Wales had his room. He was just below. And to say that I was quite spooked on a few occasions because I kept thinking there was ghosts and things. And one night the staff actually put a mannequin in my room, and hid it behind the door. And I think my dulcet tones of screams could be heard for miles, including down to the prince's rooms, which they all thought was hysterical, thankfully. So you do get to stay in some of the most amazing places, and I feel really lucky to have had those experiences.
Now, I know you love hospitality. That's in your DNA, and you've always had a great sense of public duty as well. But is butlering at the top level well rewarded financially?
It's a tricky one because, it depends who you're working for. I remember when I was looking at working for the royal family, the one thing that was said was that they're not the best people when it comes to paying, or the organisation of the firm isn't, but the experience you get is invaluable. The things you get to learn, the people you work with, and that's true. From my point of view, I felt it was quite a fair wage. I was very happy with it, but I'm grateful for the experiences I had, because what I do today is thanks to that experience. Running an etiquette school, a butler school, getting to work in the media. I had a lot of this training while I was working for the royal family and for the Dukes of Bedford, who I worked for before the royal family. So I feel that when it comes down to it, it's kind of 50-50 when you look at the benefits from what you get as the wage to the experience that you actually get along the way.
And if you're serving somebody like Prince Charles, what sorts of tasks would make up your day?
It's the same as a little bit like what you see in Downton Abbey. You're kind of there to kind of run the house. You're there to look after the family. You're there to look after the guests. Something that people didn't understand or realise, that one of the roles as a butler is that when a member of the royal family is not there and there's guests coming in, you have to kind of act as a host. Whether it's kind of pouring the drinks or kind of introducing people. The etiquette, the kind of code of etiquette. These are things that I learned when working for the family, and it's actually quite unique, because when I didn't understand something, or if there was an etiquette, a tradition, or something that because they knew I was interested in this, I would ask. I'd ask the prince if there was something that he did or something that was unusual, and I'd say, sir, can I ask why we do that? Because I wanted to understand the etiquette, the history, and I thought at the end of the day, you're learning from these people that the families have done it for centuries. So it was quite good. If there's something I wasn't sure about, I could always ask, and they would give me, they'd tell me how it was. And the other thing I remember about Prince Charles was one of the most politest men, even to this day, that I have ever met. Even though I worked for him, he paid my wages, but there was always please and thank yous. And if there was a guest at the table that didn't say please and thank you, he would even go on top of the pleases and thank yous to make it clear that he was kind of grateful that what we were there doing. And then the guests would eventually pick us up, and then they would say it as well. And that's something I very much admired about the man, because he didn't need to do that. At the end of the day, I was there doing a job, but he was grateful, and he wanted other people to know that he was grateful for the fact that they were there and what we do.
Any rules of engagement when it comes to making eye contact with the prince or with the queen, and indeed also whether or not you have to sort of wait to be addressed before you can then say something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at one time, you never, ever looked at a member of the royal family in the eyes. And if you go back a few centuries, it just wasn't done, and we walked backwards. And can you imagine the health and safety implications today? But thankfully, you don't have those kind of problems. I mean, there is the kind of rules that when you meet a member of the royal family, for a gentleman, you nod your head. For a lady, it's a courtesy. I won't demonstrate that just now, but those are the kind of things that you would do when meeting a member of the royal family. And then you let them lead the conversation. And on the other thing is, you never ask how they are. You know, the conversation is traditionally, how do you do, or it's very, very old fashioned. But then again, if you do get it wrong, and if you do say, you know, pleased to meet you, or something like that, they're not going to turn around and say, oh, you shouldn't say that. You know, this is what's so good about them, is if you do make mistakes, or you forget to bow or curtsy or get the handshake wrong, because obviously they're the ones also initiate the handshake. You never offer your hand until they offer it first. But if you do get it wrong, they don't turn around and say, oh, you've broken the etiquette rules. They go along with it, and that's what's so nice. So when I do my classes and people get quite worried about making a mistake, you can't really make a mistake. You know, just go, just be yourself. That's the important bit.
And are there any sort of politics behind the scenes among those serving the royals? Is there a kind of evil footman like Thomas the footman in Downton Abbey?
Do you know, I'd be lying if I was to say that there's never politics, because of course there's politics in any organisation and job there is. And you very quickly learn that, and especially, you know, with the bigger the household, the grander the household, of course there's the politics. You know, who's doing the best job, who's, you know, in the picking order, who's the top, who's the bottom. You know, there's all that kind of side to it. But you kind of, it's not. You kind of understand it, and you just kind of fit in with it, and thankfully it's always good humour. I think what's nice about it is, yes, there can be a bit of the kind of political side, but the humour, the fun, the teammanship, that overtakes it, and that's what's really nice. And you do build up some great friendships. You know, to this very day, I'm still friends with Prince Charles, one of his former head chefs, a head housekeeper, an equerry. You know, you build up these friendships, and they continue even after you've left, and that's what's really nice. And when I do, on a rare occasion, get invited to, if I get invited to a royal event or something, and I get to see former colleagues or other people that have also left, it's almost as if it's like a reunion. You know, it's wonderful. Even when you meet a member of the royal family. I remember a few years ago being at an event, and we saw the late Prince Philip, and as always, he was as witty, funny, you know, said it as it was, but it was wonderful. And these, again, are memories that I will always treasure.
Well, I'm absolutely certain, Grant, that you and your colleagues were very much members of the family, and it's good to hear that the royals are so polite and so judicious around those that are serving them. It doesn't surprise me. The Queen is notoriously down to earth, isn't she? And no nonsense. Let's just deal with a few myths or possible realities. Have you, as a butler to a royal, ever ironed a newspaper, put toothpaste on their toothbrush, or warmed their toilet seat with your own fair skin?
I think it's said I haven't done any of those, but I should quickly also mention that the butler's role, and this is where Carson would back me up, the butler's role is very much downstairs. The upstairs is where the valets or the housekeeper's domain, and that was an area that I very rarely entered into, because otherwise you get into a political area and then you're getting into other people's areas. So I would stay quite firmly downstairs. But I'm sorry to say I didn't iron a newspaper at any of the royals, but I have done one for a TV series, because I obviously work in media and I've done quite a few royal documentaries and TV programs over the years. And I remember did this series about 6 years ago called Can't Get the Staff for Channel 4. And I remember the director said to me, have you ever ironed a newspaper? And I said, no. And he said, would you? And I said, you know, if you want me to, I'll iron a newspaper. And, you know, it was amazing, because I recommend everyone tries it, because it is extraordinary how you get a crumpled up newspaper and suddenly it's brand new and you don't get the ink in your fingers. That's a good little tip if you don't want to get any of that ink on your fingers.
Let me tell you, my brilliant production team of Eleanor, who is brand new to the show, very warm welcome to Eleanor, and the brilliant Matthew, have ironed all of my newspapers today.
That's a fantastic team. Do not lose them. You need to keep those ones. They're good.
And also, let me tell you that Connor, the producer, flossed my teeth just before we went on air. So.
Fantastic. That's way beyond the Call of Duty, but you know what? That's good.
But he's not allowed to make eye contact. I'm very much like Tom Cruise in that way. Now, Grant, the clock's against us. We could talk to you all night. You must come and see us in the studio when you're in the capital.
I would love to.
A brief word on how things are for the royal family. I mean, as I said in my introduction, look, there are issues with Andrew. We don't want to get caught up in that. Ultimately, he and his legal team absolutely deny all allegations. But with all of the drama around Andrew, with Megxit and Oprah interviews and that soap opera that played out, and, you know, question marks about Charles as a potential successor to the throne. What are your feelings about the long-term health of the royal family? Do you think we'll still have a royal family in the decades to come?
I mean, I personally, I hope so. I mean, it's such a bad time. And, you know, we're about to enter the Platinum Jubilee year, you know, literally in a few weeks, when the Queen becomes she already is the longest reigning monarch, I think, in the world. But, I mean, she becomes our country's longest, 70 years. And it's just sad that she's definitely, and forgive me for saying it, you know, obviously she is very much in the winter of her years. I pray she goes on as long as her mother, but, you know, nobody knows. And it's just sad that all this is happening at this point in her life because, you know, really, I think the wonderful thing about the British public is, and I've said this before, Matt, I think it's safe to say whether Republican or not, we all admire and respect the Queen. And I think we all want to, for her final years, we want them to be peaceful and successful and for her to be able to enjoy what she's created. But also, I'm sure for her, she wants to make sure that it does survive for another 1,000 years. I don't know how realistic that is, but I would like to think that the future, I mean, obviously with William and Catherine, that it has got I think majority of people like them and want them to be a king and queen, but the line of succession is obviously Prince Charles, and that's what's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I like the man personally. I've worked for him. I know him. I think he'll be a good king, but I understand that there's a lot of different opinions out there. And I just pray that and hope that it does resolve. But most importantly, that this year that the Queen is able to celebrate her Platinum Jubilee without too much trouble from other members of the family. That's what I'm kind of hoping. But I think the reality is that there's going to be things that are going to come up, and I'm sure we'll all support the Queen and make sure that in June that there is a wonderful celebration when that time comes.
Oh, we will certainly be celebrating here at GB News. Now, Grant, not only are you a royal commentator and former royal butler, but you're a world-renowned etiquette expert, so I better thank you properly and gracefully. And perhaps I could direct my viewers to your excellent and well-appointed website, theroyalbutler.co.uk. Thanks, Grant, and speak soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. Oh, there you go. It's nice to get a sort of taste of how the other half live. I think you'll agree. Now, coming up in the news agenda, as British farmers condemn Asda for refusing to exclusively sell British meat products, should we boycott the chain for not supporting local farmers? And next, we'll dive into the dark underbelly of the news agenda with the queen of US showbiz and royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield. And don't forget, at 11, an entertaining romp through tomorrow's papers in Headliners with two top comedians, Andrew Doyle of GB News fame and the brilliant comedian Josh Howie. First up, the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking bright but chilly in the east with further blustery showers across western areas. Zooming into the southwest, and the showers will be focused across parts of Cornwall, Devon and Somerset, with places further east largely dry and a bright start to the day. The brighter skies will also be across southeast England and East Anglia during the morning. There will be a chilly start though, with a touch of grass frost. Into Wales, and there will be a fair few showers around, which may be wintry across the higher ground. A few icy patches are also possible. A few showers may also move into the Midlands during the morning, but more so across northwest England, where there will be quite frequent, with sleet and snow possible over the hills. Moving across the Pennines, and apart from the odd shower, it should be dry first thing, with the best of the brightness towards the North Sea coast. A cold start though, with a patchy frost. Into Scotland, and we could see some icy patches first thing, with showers affecting many southern and western parts. It will be drier further east, with some sunshine, especially for Aberdeenshire. Some showers will also move across Northern Ireland during the morning, where they will be accompanied by a blustery westerly wind. The driest weather will be towards the southeast of the country. As we head towards lunchtime, the best of the dry and bright weather will be in the southeast, with showers elsewhere.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It's time now for Uncensored USA, in which we tackle the dark underbelly of the news agenda. As always on a Saturday, we head to the Hollywood Hills and the queen of US showbiz and royal reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kinsey.
Good to see your face. I missed you. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Well, look, I missed you hugely. Happy New Year to you. Look, let's hope that 2022 is better than 2021. It couldn't be worse. Lots to get through, Kinsey. Who the hell is Joe Rogan?
Oh my gosh, what a great question. Joe Rogan has kind of become this icon in the conservative world, even though I don't think he has wanted that title. He is an MMA and a wrestling commentator, and he has this podcast here called The Joe Rogan Experience. And he is just really honest and upfront about what's going on in his life. And politically, he's become kind of a hero here. But he had a podcast released over the new year. It was with Dr. Robert Malone, who is a vaccine scientist.
Yeah.
And well, his resume is amazing, but he's actually garnered fame for some pretty controversial statements in regards to the vaccines. And this podcast was ripped from YouTube because Dr. Malone compared the climate of the U.S. health climate with Nazi Germany, which is obviously a pretty salacious thing to do. But people are irate that it was pulled, free speech, all of these things. People are pretty upset because this is, at the end of the day, a vaccine scientist who is familiar with what's going on, hyper familiar with the tone of the country. People are pretty upset over it.
Well, yes, and we've seen a flurry of top scientists in their field being thrown off Twitter for similarly unfashionable views. I mean, the bottom line, Kinsey, is that what he's saying might be completely wrong and bonkers, or he may have a point, but that these people that are being cancelled have enough letters after their name to justify having a voice.
Yes, and this doctor was kicked off Twitter recently. And I want to tell you specifically, and I had to write this down, but one of the controversial statements he says. He talks about mass formation psychosis. And to give you a, to try to dull that down, what he said on the podcast was that people, when you are isolated, you're easier to manipulate. That leadership is easier, it's easier for leadership to manipulate you. And that is really what has people fired up, that he is suggesting that the government is manipulating us by making us stay in our homes, by making us go to school over the internet. And, I think that that's a pretty interesting take. I obviously don't want to be controversial, but, it makes you wonder, right? It makes you think.
Let me tell you that Kinsey Schofield will never be cancelled from this show. I'll go before you do, Kinsey.
Thank God.
Absolutely, and you'll take over and the show will be far better. Look, Kinsey, it's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, with regard to this Joe Rogan chap, he's obviously a very talented guy because not only, as you said, is he a sort of MMA announcer, he's also a very successful stand-up comedian with Netflix specials. He signed a huge deal with Spotify to distribute his podcast, and they haven't censored any of it. And he's got a huge audience now, hasn't he? So the public are voting with, I don't know, their smartphones. I was looking at a list of the most watched shows in America, and I think one of the most watched shows on normal, regular network television in America is Tucker Carlson Tonight. I think 3 or 4 million people, which is a healthy number. I think Joe Rogan's got about 1 million viewers every week. Sorry.
Isn't that
11 million.
It's incredible. I know what list you're talking about. I recently saw that as well. And you know what's so funny is Joe Rogan was introduced to us with, and I'm spacing on the name, but one of those game shows where they challenged people to eat bugs. It's so ironic that this is now the voice of reason in the country, Joe Rogan. But yeah, he is a great success here. And I think that we should listen to him a little more often. But how interesting that this person that hasn't taken the normal route is such a successful talk show host, somebody that isn't bowing down to sponsors, they've tried to cancel him recently here. They tried to cancel him, but it just didn't happen. He has too big of an audience. So good for him.
Absolutely. So let me correct that. Tucker Carlson, 3 or 4 million. Joe Rogan, 11 million. Remarkable stuff. I've got to say, I'm a fan. I love the podcast. I disagree with large portions of it, but that doesn't stop it being a great listen. In fact, that's what makes it a great listen. And we try in some ways to echo that spirit of freedom of speech here at GB News. Now, look, there's a massive show in America. It is watched by millions. It's called The View, and I believe it's got an all-female set of presenters. It's similar to a British show that we've got called Loose Women, Kinsey. Tell me what's going on that programme, because there's been a lot of drama behind the scenes. Of course, over a year ago, Sharon Osbourne was effectively fired from the show for supporting Piers Morgan over Meghan Markle's interview with Oprah Winfrey.
That's actually a different show. That's called The Talk, I believe.
Oh, God.
But The View, no, it's okay. You know what?
Can we just start all of this again?
I'm going to give you a pass here. I'm going to give you a pass here because I like your face. The View was started by Barbara Walters in 1997, and it was almost this cute little fun brunchy show, very light, all of these gorgeous people on there talking about just fun things, and they wanted the typical housewife to watch it. It has shifted so drastically to be this fiery political program, writers from Politico, CNN commentators, and it is like watching, the Real Housewives of whatever. These women are just savage to one another. It is the most toxic program in the world. It's Whoopi Goldberg is one of the hosts, Joy Behar, which there is nothing joyful about that woman at all, and several other people that sit in, Sunny Houston. And anyway, they are having a hard time finding a conservative commentator because they bully. It's 4 liberal women and then 1 conservative. That's always been the way it goes. And they can't find any conservative commentators willing to take this job because they are so nasty and such bullies. Recently, Meghan McCain was their one conservative commentator, but she quit and said, look, this is the most toxic environment I've ever been in. They're talking about maybe Ann Coulter or Candace Owens, but they say that they're almost too conservative. Who they want to cast is somebody that is conservative but won't upstage the liberal women like Whoopi or Joy. And they're having just an impossible time finding somebody to take that job. And I'm just like, well, I wouldn't take it. That sounds terrible. That sounds like the worst experience ever, because they talk about issues that are happening in the United States, and then all four women jump on the conservative. And it's a devastating thing to watch if you're a conservative. You just actually want to hide under the covers.
Yes, it sounds like a bear trap. Well, thanks for pointing out the distinction between The Talk and The View. I have to catch up on my US daytime TV viewing. If they've got the money, I think they should definitely put a bid in with your agent, Kinsey. Now, let's talk about Kate Middleton, because I'm delighted to say my team have just found these newly released images of Kate Middleton. They've just dropped. So this is a bit of a UK broadcast exclusive. These portraits have literally in the last few seconds been released to mark the milestone of the Duchess of Cambridge's 40th birthday, which she'll be celebrating tomorrow. She can be seen wearing Alexander McQueen dresses and earrings that belong to Princess Diana. Kinsey, she looks all right for 40, doesn't she?
I have goosebumps. I'm just now seeing these too. These are absolutely insane. I have never visualized her like this. She has a brand that is, straight hair and very tight, well-fit clothing. To see her in some of this, these artistic photos, I'm actually shocked at it. I absolutely adore this side of her. And, it's not like anything we've seen from any other royals. Queen Elizabeth, Princess Diana, very unique fashion-wise, very unique the way that they're shot, the colors. I am in awe. She is the most beautiful woman in the world. I put my life on it. And I am just so excited for her to one day be your queen. I might move over there when she becomes your queen. That's how much I love her.
I think we can co-present a show just about her, because this is a woman that she seems born to the role, Kinsey. She hasn't for a single moment put a foot wrong. She's obviously incredibly beautiful. She's got empathy, charm, wit, humour. She's down to earth whilst being unnaturally princess-like. I mean, she's quite the phenomenon, and certainly the queen in waiting.
Absolutely. And, I know that we like to compare these women to Diana, but in this case, I do see Diana a bit when she's interacting with children. But with Kate, I really see reflections of Queen Elizabeth. She does her work and does not ask to be high-fived or celebrated for it. She does so much work that we don't even know about. We don't even hear about. She, is not controversial at all. She just plays by the rules. And she was so excited for this role and so determined to be good at this role that she did her homework. She went above and beyond to learn protocol, why you do certain things, how you execute it. And she did that. And I think that I have so much respect for her, and I cannot wait to see what the future holds for her. 40, my God, she looks like she's 22. And I just absolutely adore her. You're right. She deserves every ounce of celebration this weekend.
Well, if you want up-to-date royal reporting and plenty of exclusive interviews into the bargain, then head over to Kinsey's amazing website, To Die For Daily, a fantastic online resource for all fans of royal news. And Kinsey, we'll see you in a week's time. Thank you, sir. Brilliant stuff. Oh, not many people call me sir these days, only when I'm in trouble. Thanks to Kinsey. Lots more to come. We're going to play another Great British Game Show. That's right, a game based around a news story of the day. I want you to play along at home. And in the news agenda next, what's the worst food item you've ever been served or eaten? One restaurant may take the biscuit for the most gruesome looking food item. I must warn you, it's not for the faint-hearted. And don't forget, top comedy after 11. I'm in the host's chair for Weekend Headliners. Can't wait for that. Andrew Doyle from GB News and the brilliant comedian Josh Howie. So we've got an hour and 20 and we'll make it last. See you shortly.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Well, reacting to the big stories of the day is my fantastic panel, founder of moneymagpie.com, an excellent finance website for consumers. That's Jasmine Birtles, the legendary broadcaster, a very old friend of mine, John Gaunt, and the fabulous comedian and radio DJ, and someone that terrifies people in supermarkets.
Yeah.
Tommy Sanders.
John's been sat on my lap backstage.
Yeah.
Just so you know, he's been all over me.
And listen, if I ran into you in the supermarket, I'd want a hug.
Yeah, you'd get one.
What? I know that you were in M&S earlier today, but what was the supermarket where this famous drama happened with the lady that was scared?
Why is that relevant? Because it was Waitrose, but I don't shop at Waitrose.
Waitrose at M&S.
Yeah, I don't shop at Waitrose.
Man of the people, Tommy.
Man
of the people.
Listen, he works for the BBC. He's been on a fortune for years.
I don't.
You used to?
I used to, yeah, 4 years ago.
You've retired.
I was thrown out, Mark, quite controversially. Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, John would never have a comment on that, would you, John?
No.
John's on great terms with the Beeb.
I'm great terms with the Beebs, everybody. I've never been sacked.
No, yeah, everyone loves
lovely
John.
about John Gaunt, he will work with anyone.
Absolutely.
Even you.
Even me, and that's saying something. Well, look, let's talk about the food on your plate, because British farmers have come out and condemned Asda for refusing to sell British meat products. Of course, they're not saying we won't sell British meat products, but it's not having that sort of British-only guarantee. So you'd think our supermarkets need to support British farmers now more than ever, but Asda have done a complete U-turn on their pledge in October to only stock British beef, blaming price increases. In response, farmers have called the decision disgraceful. Morrisons and Co-op said they will continue to sell British beef despite the rise in prices. What do we think, John? Should we buy British?
We've got to buy British, haven't we? You can't have a situation like that. I mean, I just wouldn't shop in Asda if we're going to go down the street, because we've got to recover, like we've been saying before, work together to recover. And this is not helpful at all. And, so I don't think it can be justified.
And listen, you're a big fan of the low-carb protocol, so you're all about a nice bit of beef.
Oh,
bit of ribeye. Glass of red wine?
Yeah, the occasional glass of red wine. But eating meat is great for you. I also despise and I feel it's government propaganda. I'm nearly in your camp with this one. It's veganary.
This is one narrative you've signed up to.
I've definitely signed up. Why is the vegan thing allowed to be pushed by all and sundry, right? It's an unhealthy diet. There's no two ways about it. You can't get B12. And they push it like mad. What we do need to do now is get pushing people to eat low carb, cut out the carbs, cut out the...
Well, what did that do for you? So you got rid of those processed carbohydrates in your diet, sugar.
It helped me lose weight, but more importantly, it resets your metabolic health. And that's what needs to happen. And so when people... There's been a lot of attack on fat people, right, at the moment by a lot of the people who aren't so convinced about the vaccine. I think it's been pretty disgusting because it's low level, it's fat shame. I don't like that term either.
And there are people who are not overweight who are ill in hospital with COVID.
Yes, and you don't get COVID by being fat. It doesn't help you if you're fat, and along with other comorbidities, but people have forgotten that. But I just think we need to promote people eating meat, eating fish, British meat, British fish, cutting out the crack cocaine, which, as you know, is white sugar, and the ultra-processed foods, because undoubtedly as we come out of COVID, we need to eat better. And if there's a problem with price at the moment, we're going to have to use some subsidies, aren't we?
Yeah,
So
I
that
think
we
it would
eat
be
more
money
meat.
well spent, wouldn't it?
Of course it would be.
Yeah.
The long-term, you know, like...
So you lost, how many stone did you lose?
$6 stone.
I mean, listen to that, guys. 6 stone.
I mean, I did get huge. But
And
it
you
wasn't
reversed
just
your
that.
diabetes as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it's all about... Yeah, you've got to be careful here, because you can break
Or
the law.
in remission or something, is it?
Yeah, well, you can use remission, reverse, whatever. I took my numbers right down. I was 93, and I took it to under...
You don't look 93, I've got
I took my HABC1. And it doesn't work for everyone, but it will definitely, if you start walking and you stop eating processed food, the weight, it's not just the weight. I'm trying to get this message over.
No, it's health, isn't it?
It's health.
Metabolic health.
Yeah, digestive system. Dr. Asim Malhotra, the renowned cardiologist, says it takes 21 days to really... He's got a book, it's brilliant. You can reset your metabolic health in that time.
POP diets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
well,
your
that's
website-
the first book.
is that-
This new one is the reset.
Is that right?
And I just think that people need to know more about that. And we've just got to encourage people to eat meat and fish.
And that's why I love that idea of the state actually possibly subsidising healthy food, like real food, whether it's vegetables, green leafy vegetables.
Oh, I forgot about that. You
fish,
eat
eggs.
green
Well, no, but it's
leafy
interesting. And your website is simpleasfat.com. Take a look if you're interested. But I mean, you know, buying British, it makes sense, even from an environmental point of view, because buying local, it means fewer air miles.
Yeah, exactly. And what bothers me, and I've heard of this from farmers, is that the government is actually planning in a few years' time, apparently, on bringing all the meat from New Zealand and Australia. I mean, crazy. That does not make any sense at all. But apparently, that this is something they've signed off. And talk about air miles, it's insane. We should absolutely be buying British and in everything.
Would you like to see a little sticker on your box of apples with a Union Jack on it?
Yes, I would.
Because I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it, John, that we ship, for example, apples from Fiji on the other side of the world, considering that Kent is the Garden of England. All you've got in Kent is apples.
Yeah, and also they decide whether it's cheaper to process say it's a melon or something and cut it into squares like you've just been eating, whether it's cheaper to freight it by cutting it there or cutting it here. It's all wrong, and it's exploiting the people there, so it's not good for them either. I just think as well, we just need to promote eating proper food. So if it's not in season, if it's not growing, you can't eat it. Eat something else. So then people now would be eating stews and eating I mean, I don't particularly like root vegetables because the carb element, but what's wrong with parsnips? What's wrong with swede? What's wrong with these kinds of vegetables?
So when you were in that supermarket terrifying that lady, I'm sorry, Tommy, I'm
right.
stop teasing you about
That's
it.
right, it's fine.
I've been to the supermarket without a mask as well. In fact, millions have. And in fact, was at that school in the north of England where 5% of pupils were wearing a mask and 95% refused to wear one because they think it's nonsense. But listen, what about buying British? Do you buy British?
Yeah, well, in general, I've always felt it's just nice to support local. So even, I mean, I'm talking about the window company that fitted my windows. I'd like to go local. I would just think if everybody just looks after the community, then everyone's kind of all right.
Going to like a little independent greengrocer.
Yes.
Things like that.
So I've always preferred butcher's meat All our life, even my parents, growing up in East Ham, East London, they would go to the Indian butchers and get their meats and stuff from there because it was just the local guys up there on the high road. You'd also, it's lovely talking to a butcher and he tells you about the cut, tells you about what's going on. He gives you some ideas. Oh, this is lovely for this, lovely. You miss that and you don't get that in shrink wrap meat.
Expertise.
Yeah, you get excited about your meal.
Yeah, I went to a fishmonger. I've got to say I got some squid, which I believe was not British. In fact, I couldn't tell you where squid comes from, but I don't think it's
It's a good point, though, because actually there's a lot of fish that we produce that we actually send elsewhere. And I would like us to get more into our own local fish so that we're actually eating it ourselves.
Well, that's right. We don't eat the fish on our shores, do we?
No, most of that fish, like the Scottish fishermen are catching, langoustine and stuff like that, it goes straight to the continent. That's why that whole row wasn't sorted out properly. But people should eat more fish. And, I think Tom is right. Shop locally if you can, because these shops will disappear and you won't miss them till they've gone. And the supermarkets don't care about you, as proved, because now Asda have decided they won't stock our products.
Yeah, and a little big up for the British farmers, which is that most of our livestock, whether it's sort of cows or indeed lamb, are all grass-fed, aren't they? They're grass-pastured, which is excellent for the quality of the meat. So
going
I
back
think
going back to squid and octopus just for a minute, my wife won't allow us ever to eat that because she looks at me and she says, an octopus is cleverer than you.
Yeah, well,
I said, well, most animals are, even when they're dead.
But listen, can I just say I would never put you in a vat of boiling water. Honestly, I wouldn't. I'd
put Tommy in.
I tell you what.
I'd put Tommy in without his blooming mask.
Do you know what? That feels like it could be a new strand for the show.
Yeah.
Who's going in the pot?
It'll be John.
It'll always be me.
Of course it'll always be.
I was just very, very briefly, but my fishmonger, he cleaned up and filleted this squid. And the spine of the squid is amazing. It actually looks like clear plastic.
Yeah.
It's quite the most amazing thing to behold. Isn't nature fabulous? Now, look, we've got to crack on because it's time for a very special part of the show. Now, according to the latest research, women are putting themselves through serious discomfort to look fashionable. The researchers found that women are up to 12 times more likely than men to wear uncomfortable shoes. No surprises there. But they'll also wear clothing that welts the skin, prevents them from taking a deep breath, and distracting items that require ongoing monitoring and adjustment throughout the day. Well, this got us thinking about famous faces who have been sufferers in the name of fashion. It's that moment you've been waiting for. It's time for this. Just looking at Jasmine's shoes, they look really comfortable. But
well, they are quite. But you see, they've got heels. Now, if you compared...
Actually, quickly, could you mind putting one of your shoes on camera?
Yeah.
Let's have a look, because
there
it is...
Are.
Oh, there you go. There you are. It's a nice wide shot.
There we are. And you can see the sensible shoes that we have here and your sensible shoes. So that, we are an example of that. And I could have worn flats. But, it's posh. I'm on a posh TV.
You look much better than the three of us put together. Well, it gives us a chance to play another great British game show. Today's game is called If Looks Could Kill. So my panel and you at home are about to show you infamous fashion disasters with the celebrity's face blurred out. It's up to you to guess who is responsible for each fashion fail. So let's start with celebrity number one. Okay, who is that? Wearing a dress that you'd approve of, John. A lot of animal protein going on there.
Is it
Lady Gaga?
Yes, it is.
It is. She went Gaga with that outfit. That was Lady Gaga, her infamous meat dress. Fashion fail number two.
British meat.
All right, dress down Friday, innit? Going casual.
Is that Ed Sheeran?
It's Sheeran, absolutely. Pop superstar Ed Sheeran, who's so rich and famous he doesn't have to dress up when he goes out. Yeah. How about fashion fail number three? Now, wait a minute. Imagine going to a red carpet event in washing up gloves.
Marigolds.
They are marigolds, aren't they?
That's not AOC, is it? It's the sort of thing she might do.
No, it's not AOC. Let's have a look. It could be a familiar face. It is Lady Gaga again. That's right. She's got previous. OK, how about this? This is a double fashion fail. Him and hers leather catsuits.
That's the Matrix again, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's all come back.
Tommy in the supermarket.
Well, this is football and pop stars.
Oh, it's Posh and Becks.
It's the Beckhams. Well done. Points go to Jasmine there. That's right, Posh and Becks. How about this one? Fashion fail number five.
Oh. Who was
one
that?
of the most famous people in the world. Famous for not doing much.
That's like
really.
the Met Gala. That was. Remember when they
yes,
turned up?
It's Kardashian.
It
It's
is.
Kim,
Which
Kim
Kardashian could it be?
Kim? Is it Kim?
It is Kim. Well, then
Yes.
you need to work that one out for yourself. How about this? We'll power through the next one. Fashion fail number 6.
Oh, that is.
Now, this guy was caught on CCTV in the most outrageous outfit.
Oh, no.
Not Matt Hancock.
It's Hancock.
No.
Yep. Doing his full
standing
I'm a
there
cool
for?
guy look.
Oh, for goodness
There you
sake.
go, like anyone cares. How about this one? Number 7, fashion fail. One of the most famous singers in
Harry
the world.
Styles.
Yes, he went in the wrong direction with that outfit. Brilliant work.
Dear, yes.
Okay, how about this one? Number 8. Incredible singer, glamorous lady, very beautiful.
Kylie.
It's not quite Kylie. She's a bit taller than Kylie. It is, let's reveal all, it's Rihanna. How about this one? Fashion fail number 9, a politician.
Oh, that is AOC.
It is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And how about this one, the final one? Oh, dear. They lost the cup final. Liverpool FC.
Oh, bless him.
My thanks to my brilliant panel. Headliners is next.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Looking ahead to tomorrow's weather, and the UK is looking bright but chilly in the east with further blustery showers across western areas. Zooming into the southwest, and the showers will be focused across parts of Cornwall, Devon and Somerset, with places further east largely dry and a bright start to the day. The brighter skies will also be across southeast England and East Anglia during the morning. There will be a chilly start though, with a touch of grass frost. Into Wales, and there will be a fair few showers around, which may be wintry across the higher ground. A few icy patches are also possible. A few showers may also move into the Midlands during the morning, but more so across northwest England, where there will be quite frequent, with sleet and snow possible over the hills. Moving across the Pennines, and apart from the odd shower, it should be dry first thing, with the best of the brightness towards the North Sea coast. A cold start though, with a patchy frost. Into Scotland, and we could see some icy patches first thing, with showers